Here's your wrestling news for December 3rd, 2020. And your headlines for today include Pat Patterson's cause of death revealed. Pro Wrestling World reacts to Pat Patterson's passing. How AEW pulled off Sting's surprise debut during Dynamite this week. AEW drops entire line of Sting merchandise after debut. Kenny Omega wins AEW World title and he is heading to Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling stars react to new partnership with AEW. The future of the Inner Circle is in jeopardy. The exact moment when Braun Strowman got injured revealed. WWE planned to reboot 15-year-old angle for Chelsea Green's debut. WWE star assaulted in parking lot before NXT debut. Lana and Asuka kiss in new TikTok video. WWE announces 3 huge matches for Tribute to the Troops special. It was downhill from there. Arn Anderson on the moment Cody Rhodes' WWE career changed, and more. We've got some terrible news to start off with, as WWE Hall of Famer Pat Patterson has died, aged 79. The first ever WWE Intercontinental Champion, Patterson competed for decades in wrestling before retiring, though returned to action as one of Vince McMahon's stooges in the Attitude Era, alongside Gerald Briscoe. Outside of the ring, Patterson's creative mind created the Royal Rumble match, which has gone on to become a yearly highlight of the wrestling calendar. Newsweek, among other outlets, are reporting that Patterson was hospitalized in Miami, Florida, where he was battling cancer, and tributes have been pouring in from the wrestling community. Shane McMahon said he couldn't express how crushed he feels losing a family friend, whilst Stephanie said she was grateful to have grown up with the Hall of Famer. Triple H spoke highly of what Patterson gave to wrestling, whether it was his body as an in-ring performer or his mind as a storyteller, whilst Vince McMahon spoke about Patterson laying the foundations for WWE as we know it. Clearly, Pat Patterson meant a lot to a lot of people, and we here at Slat Rock would like to send our very deepest condolences to Pat's family and those who knew him at this sad time. AEW next, and the company promised some surprises for fans at their Winter is Coming show, and they certainly delivered. When Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin were taking a beating after their match, the lights went out and a new entrance video played, confirming that Sting has made it to AEW. The Stinger even appeared on stage as Tony Schiavone called out his name like in WCW, whilst Jim Ross said seeing the Stinger makes him feel young again. JR added that they don't know what'll happen next, but they know Sting is on AEW Dynamite. It's incredible that Dynamite were able to keep this a secret, especially in the internet age, and according to Fightful Select, nobody they spoke to backstage at AEW Dynamite knew that Sting was in the building or that he was coming at all. It was reported that the initial reaction we got from talent has been shock and excitement, as they didn't hear about it until right before the segment, and Sting himself wasn't around Daly's place until late afternoon before the show. Speaking on the matter, Tony Khan said, "The surprise introduction of Sting was a great way to celebrate our biggest episode of Dynamite yet. When AEW launched, I was ecstatic to bring wrestling back to TNT after a very long absence. Sting defeated the legendary Ric Flair in the final match to be shown on TNT for more than 18 years until the debut of Dynamite in 2019. Now, almost 2 decades later, it's such a thrill to welcome Sting to AEW and bring him back home to TNT." Now, attention turns to whether Sting will compete in AEW, as his last match at Night of Champions 2015 saw his in-ring career end thanks to a buckle bomb by Seth Rollins, and hopefully he'll address this next week when he appears and speaks on Dynamite. Sting's WWE contract expired in May this year, and the company stopped selling his merch in October, so perhaps they can send all that extra merch to their competitors, who will have no problem selling shirts emblazoned with the Hall of Famer as part of his new multi-year contract. Speaking of merch, Sting was wearing his new AEW shirt, and an entire line of AEW official apparel has already dropped for him. Well, what do you feel about Sting's AEW debut, and if you had to describe it in one word, what would it be? Let us know in the comments below. On any other week, Sting's debut would have no doubt been the biggest AEW story, but that accolade may now go to the new AEW World Champion, Kenny Omega. With Don Callis on commentary, the finish was unique to say the least, as a mistimed dive to the outside left Omega motionless, whilst Moxley brought him back into the ring to finish the match. When Callis grabbed a mic and demanded the match be stopped, Moxley took Callis out, but this did distract him long enough for Omega to grab the mic and bust open the now former champion. A few V-triggers later, Omega became the third AEW World Champion in history, but this wasn't the end of the show. With Tony Khan and others visibly upset, Callis and Omega made their escape, with Don saying fans will get to hear what happened this Tuesday on Impact Wrestling. Fans won't have to wait that long to hear from the man himself though, as when one Twitter user accused Callis of screwing over AEW, the Impact head replied saying, "AEW screwed AEW," a line made famous by Vince McMahon shortly after the original Montreal Screwjob. The wrestlers themselves aren't happy either, as Miro mocked Omega and described Callis as, quote, "a little f***ing bald-headed guy." Though Miro, the roster, the commentators, the fans, and Tony Khan aren't happy, the talent from Impact are pretty pleased, as Scott D'Amore tweeted that fans will get to see the new AEW World Champion this Tuesday. Jordan Grace described what happened as dope as hell, while Sami Callihan borrowed a line from CM Punk asking the fans whether Impact has their attention now. No two people are more thrilled than Callis and Omega, and we'll have to see what happens on Tuesday's Impact with the AEW World Championship now in the enemy camp. More from AEW as after this week, the Inner Circle's days may be numbered. After Chris Jericho defeated Frankie Kazarian this week, MJF and Sammy Guevara had a shoving contest that almost got physical, leading Jericho himself to say he's had enough of this. The former AEW World Champion added that they'll have an ultimatum segment next week, which will decide whether the faction stays together or breaks up. It looks like the Inner Circle may be no more in a matter of days, and it'll be interesting to see what every member pulls out for next week's segment. Back to WWE, and at Survivor Series, Braun Strowman and Team Raw dominated at the show, though the monster among men was seen clutching his knee during the men's elimination match. Strowman was originally slated for a WWE title match, but given this injury, that isn't happening, though he's not expected to miss much time. We now know that the injury happened when Jey Uso landed a dive on a group of wrestlers, as when he took out everyone, including Strowman, the former Universal Champion grabbed his knee. We'll have to see how long it takes for Braun Strowman to make a return to action, but many believe his current knee issue stemmed from catching Jey Uso's Survivor Series dive, though this is being chalked up as a freak accident and an occupational hazard of being a WWE superstar. Over to SmackDown, as Chelsea Green had her blue brand call-up, which didn't go according to plan, though this wasn't the first time WWE proposed calling her up. According to Fightful, there was a scrapped plan for Green to be called up, which would have emulated the obsessed fan angle of 2005 and 2006 between Mickie James and Trish Stratus, and there were those who were behind this idea for Green. This would have been a way to bring James back to prominence on TV, and according to reports, the company had a solid plan, and their planning went, quote, "a lot further than a pitch" before it inexplicably got scrapped. This time around, it would have been James who was the object of Green's fandom, and the company actually filmed content for the angle, but abruptly changed plans only hours before it was supposed to air. Instead of being James's obsessed fan, Green waited for months for her call-up shortly before Survivor Series, and given the injury she suffered during that triple threat match, it's unclear what the future holds for the Canadian superstar. One person who knows about rough debuts is Kurt Stallion, who was all ready for his match this week until a car full of enemies ruined his plans. Before he could make his debut, Santos Escobar, Raul Mendoza, and Joaquin Wilde jumped him to leave Stallion lying, and we'll have to see how this plays out in NXT in the coming weeks. Raw news next, as Lana and Asuka picked up a big non-title win over Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler this week, and the Ravishing Russian had quite the way to celebrate. In a new TikTok video, Lana shared a kiss with the Raw Women's Champion before dancing to a bit of Dua Lipa's Blow Your Mind in the short video. It's expected that the pair will receive a tag title opportunity down the line, perhaps at WWE TLC later this month, but until then, the pair certainly had an interesting social media drop in this video. Now, Bruce Pritchard has been described as the most powerful man in WWE not in the McMahon family, but the executive director of main roster programming isn't too popular in the locker room. According to a source for Ringside News, Pritchard is, quote, "terribly unpopular with the talent," and that's because of how he handles the role of executive director. A tenured member of WWE's creative team said that Pritchard openly plays games with people's lives, and will often have talent be buried for no reason other than his own amusement. Pritchard also reportedly uses talent to push an agenda with Vince McMahon, as the executive director of main roster programming has a lot of sway with the chairman. Clearly, it's hard to keep friends when you're on top, And this is especially true if you handle your position at the top like Bruce Pritchard is going about things. More from WWE, as the company has announced the latest wave of developmental signings, which includes some interesting names. After reports that he was close to inking a deal, Alex Zane has joined WWE, as have both Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz, though the third member of the Rascals, Trey Miguel, hasn't signed at this time. Sojiro Higuchi, aka Eichmann, is a 26-year-old standout from Japan who trained under Yoshihiro Tajiri, and the company also signed Anriel Howard, a former college basketball star from Mississippi State and Texas A&M. Now this Sunday, WWE will air their Tribute to the Troops special on Fox, and now we've got 3 matches confirmed for the show. On the show, WWE Champion Drew McIntyre will face The Miz in non-title action, while Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair will team to face Natalya and Bayley. A huge 8-man tag has also been confirmed with the Street Profits, Rey Mysterio and Daniel Bryan facing King Corbin, Elias, Sami Zayn, and Dolph Ziggler. The show will also have a performance by Hardy, the country band, not the superstar, and fans will get to see Tribute to the Troops this Sunday on Fox. Back to AEW, and Cody Rhodes has done big things since his WWE departure in 2016, but according to Arn Anderson, he should have left much sooner. Speaking on his podcast, Anderson said that Cody's main issue in WWE was that he was willing to do whatever was asked, and spoke about a segment that saw the Big Show rip off Cody's clothes. AA added that the company couldn't figure out Cody after Legacy, the stable of Rhodes, Ted DiBiase Jr. and Randy Orton split in early 2010, and it seems both Arn and Cody are far happier now as part of All Elite Wrestling. And we're ending today with news from NXT, as the Black and Gold brand has had another positive test this week. According to Fightful, one member of NXT has tested positive, though they didn't specify who, but said they are a, quote, top NXT superstar. Their report added that unlike previous positive tests in NXT, this case didn't have people worried that it would lead to an outbreak, as the infected superstar in question hasn't been around large crowds of people. It also wasn't noted if this positive test will have an impact on this weekend's TakeOver War Games pay-per-view, but fans should get an idea as we approach this Sunday. NXT has been criticized both within WWE and out of the company for how they've handled positive tests and outbreaks in the past, and hopefully the WWE's third brand will be able to get this situation under control.